Hi, I'm Mr. Baker, and this is 7.1 Meiosis. The silly phrase you need to learn is ipmat-C, pmat-C. Those are the two parts of meiosis. But first, let's talk about reproduction. Reproduction involves asexual versus sexual. Sexual reproduction for us is going to equal two parents, where you have an egg from one parent and a sperm from the other parent joining. Asexual reproduction is going to be one parent, and there are 5 different ways I want you to know. Bacteria reproduce asexually through binary fission. It's similar to the mitosis you learned, but bacteria do things different because they're bacteria. We're just going to memorize binary fission and move on. Splitting, which is simple cell division, which is the mitosis and the ipmat-C you learned last chapter. Budding is when a new individual buds off a parent. The example is Hydra, and Hydra is the picture in the upper right corner, and that little thing looks like it's having a bad hair day halfway up. The Hydra is its bud. Hydra are little freshwater dudes. They are very small, but you can see them with the naked eye if you know what you're looking for. But Hydra is our example of something called budding. Humans clearly don't bud. Parthenogenesis, some animals do that. More about that coming up. And fragmentation is when new pieces can grow from an entire new organism. For example, if you cut part of a plant and you put it into soil and it grows roots and becomes a new plant, that's fragmentation. Parthenogenesis. These are animals where the egg develops without fertilization, and females can lay eggs without sperm that develop and hatch, and they can be male or female depending upon what type of parthenogenesis, because there are at least 4 different types of parthenogenesis. We just want you to be aware that it's there. This bit is optional. It occurs naturally in some invertebrates, water fleas, aphids. And what are aphids? That's the picture in the upper right. Those are plant vampires. They literally suck the sap out of the plants. And if you get too many aphids, it'll kill the plant. Some bees, some scorpions, and some wasps, and a few vertebrates. Some fish, amphibians, and lizards are the ones that we want you to know about. Komodo dragons do this. There was a Komodo dragon in March or April of 2020 that hadn't seen a male in over a decade and laid 3 eggs and got either 2 males and 1 female or vice versa. So Komodo dragons can do it too. I will argue that Yoshi does this as well. Why? Because Yoshis reproduce via eggs. This is well known in the canon. They only appear to have one sex. We're going to stick with the green and white Yoshis from the traditional Nintendo. We can infer that all Yoshis are female. Therefore, they lay unfertilized eggs, which will hatch as either females or males, depending. So my hypothesis is that Yoshi reproduces asexually via parthenogenesis. We do know that Yoshi now has multiple colors and what appears to be multiple sex, so clearly parthenogenesis is part of how Yoshi does reproduce, but Yoshi might do actual sexual reproduction, meaning that 2 gametes, an egg and a sperm, get together to form a zygote. Zygotes are fertilized eggs. So why did sexual reproduction? Why this whole business? To increase variation or shuffling of the gene deck. With the exception of self-fertilizing organisms, some plants, zygotes have gametes from 2 different parents. Variation, what about it? Well, imagine all the DNA and genes as a deck of playing cards. If you're asexual, you make an exact copy of the deck of cards, or you can call that a clone. Sexual is going to shuffle the deck of cards, and you might even magically, so to speak, add in new cards if we're going to stick with our gene analogy. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each strategy. Here's a review of mitosis. Don't forget ipmat-C. Don't forget meiosis has a phrase, ipmat-C, pmat-C. Meiosis occurs in the reproductive organs. That's the testes and the ovaries. Meiosis produces haploid gametes, which means they have half the number of chromosomes in regular body or somatic cells. This is also referred to as the N, little n. In humans, we have 23 total chromosomes in haploid gametes, meaning that in diploid or normal body cells, we have 2N or 46 total chromosomes. Make sure you understand haploid are just egg or sperm. Diploid is all the rest of your body cells. Chromosomes have pieces of DNA that we refer to as genes. They code for a protein or something that the cell needs to produce, and each chromosome is going to have hundreds of these genes. Human somatic cells each have 46 chromosomes. Soma coming from body in Latin. Somatic refers to from the body. These are body cells. You get 23 chromosomes from each parent. That means you have 23 pairs of chromosomes. And chromatid's going to come up, and we're going to try not to confuse you. Homologous chromosomes, these are chromosomes that match. 4 matching chromatids equals 2 matching chromosomes. 4 chromatids is something called a tetrad. Tetrad is only found in prophase 1 of meiosis. Memorize that. Tetrads, prophase 1, meiosis. Tetrads, tetra equals 4. You get 2 mom chromatids, which is called 1 chromosome, coupled with 2 dad chromatids for 1 chromosome, which gives us 2 chromosomes or 4 chromatids. Tetrad refers to the 4 chromatids. Homologous chromosomes have the same length, the same centromere, because they match. They carry the genes that control the same trait, and they don't necessarily code for the same expression of said genes. So here's what we've got. This is a tetrad. This is a homologous chromosome. These are the chromatids, 2 on the left, 2 chromatids on the right, 4 total chromatids, 2 chromosomes, 1 homologous chromosomes. Yeah, the definitions, try not to get lost in that. The karyotype is a picture of the chromosomes. Here's what your chromosomes look like. This is a normal human, meaning there's no genetic disorder. And XY at the bottom means that's a male. And be aware that some pieces of DNA get intruded, or are intruders, and intrude themselves into. They are called introns. They are nonsense DNA, and they are not included. And your body will cut those out. Exons are what remains. It's the DNA that is translated into proteins. It's part of the useful DNA in genes. And that's what we've got for your quiz. That's your intro to meiosis, the difference between sexual versus asexual, gametes, zygotes, haploid, diploid, genes, introns, exons, and what a karyotype is. Study hard and do well on your quiz.